All right. Welcome to each of you this evening on this unprecedented journey to support you in discovering your own yes energy and really learning about this equation to do less and make more and make it a fact in your life. We are, of course, talking about Laurel Langmeyer's latest bestseller, her fifth bestseller, in fact, and we are now on week 3 of an 8-week journey for many of you, and for a special group of you, it is week 3 of a 12-week process toward your certification as one of our Yes Energy coaches. And let me just address that point very quickly for a moment, as I am getting a lot of inquiries. So for those of you emailing me, leaving me voicemails, yes, the answer is yes. There are still spaces available to become one of our Yes Energy coaches. And if you are interested to get the fastest, quickest response, just email me, please. Don, that's D-O-N, at liveoutloud.com. Don at liveoutloud.com. And if in the subject line you will please write the words Yes Energy Coach, I will have someone get back to you promptly. But right now we are on week 3, and tonight we are talking about a new conversation. So without further ado, I give you Live Out Loud's founder and CEO and the author of Yes Energy, The Equation to Do Less and Make More, and truly the one and only Laurel Langmeyer. Are you with us, Laurel?
I am, and I appreciate you continuing to moderate and be part of us. And as Don said, we just want to again encourage you and welcome you on this journey of Yes Energy. And those of you that are making some posts and comments, we understand. Like I really get it. Writing this book was a deep, deep journey, and some of you are just saying you're not willing to post and be comfortable sharing some of the things around your conversation or how things used to be in your no energy conversation. I would just encourage you, part of the Live Out Loud process. Live Out Loud isn't about being outrageous and over the top. Live Out Loud is about being in a conversation about money, and now Yes Energy, a broader conversation that we're taking on, because without that broader Yes Energy conversation, it's become in the last, years very difficult to help you make money every day, through our financial formulas and entrepreneurial training and sales trainings and marketing training. And it's become, really, really tough to help you on millionaire status. I mean, millionaires and successful business owners and just people that are successful in life have a yes conversation. And I know to get my, alignment, and I would say find my soul, after my divorce and going through the, lawsuits and taking a lot of the heavy hits, whatever your version of that is, losing a database of mine and just, life, right? There's stuff that just, can hit you. I think one of the things I want to encourage you to do, is really find a few people, and maybe it's your fast cash accountability coach. Maybe you take on one of our one-on-one Yes Energy coaches, or the coach that has brought you to this program now, and have someone to really work through the inquiries and live it out loud. I think you're going to find a very deep and more introspective space for the energy of the conversation when you are out loud about it. Remember, you only can process what's going on with you to the degree you have any understanding. And even if someone asks you questions and you start that deep questioning process, you're going to find depths of yourself and depths of this conversation that you aren't going to find, I can guarantee you will not find by yourself. So take that on, take on the Live Out Loud, the Yes Energy. Like I said, find a one-on-one coach and really, really engage. I'm very clear what I'm asking you to do. I mean, this book was the most challenging book, not from a challenging negative standpoint, but from a, really, really looking in every corner of your life and say, where am I going to clean it up, get fully back in integrity and alignment to my values, and only have Yes Energy, and then have, our entire team and our company hold each other accountable to a Yes Energy attitude and activities and the actions we do every day. So what it does in that accountability, it really holds you to a different level of performance and standard in your life. And remember, during Yes Energy, we aren't just talking about money and entrepreneurialism and becoming a millionaire. We're talking about your spiritual journey. We're talking about your health. We're talking about your relationships. It's a broader conversation. And so find the folks that are close to you. Find the person who put you on this phone call. If it's one of our Yes Energy coaches or one of our team members here at Live Out Loud that put you here. and reach out for that support. So that would be my words of encouragement as you take this journey. The other thing I want to say is about the coaching program. I mean, we are going to constantly be bringing Yes Energy coaches to each of your communities, and they will be working with other local business groups to bring Yes Energy, bring our 3 days to cash, our mentoring, our financial formulas to the community in support of growing back an amazing economy in America, Australia, UK, Canada, where we work in the world. Over 50% of small, medium enterprise and businesses generate the majority of jobs in every country. So it's a really great mission that we're on, and having a Yes Energy coach either supporting you right now, our team supporting you, or you becoming one adds revenue to your economy locally, and for you personally, it is a revenue opportunity. We put together a revenue model of upward of over $200,000 a year that can be additional revenue to a current business or new revenue to a startup business. So think about what you're going to personally do to generate your own money. Now, again, the findyessenergy.com is the site for you to engage, and if you feel like you don't have someone to talk to, ask someone. You can always just exchange your emails and then go to phone calls. So there's, upward of 1,000 people in this program. And there will be, constantly ongoing thousands of people in the program. So there's plenty of people to talk to. So if you're standing by yourself, it's your choice. What we're going to do this week, we are in week 3, is you should be by now on page 45 of the book. So I do have to apologize if that number is a little bit, and Don, you can correct me, because I am in Australia doing this call, and I am looking at a paperback. So that is just a word across all of this. So I'll say it this way. You should be on chapter 4, more meaning, less chatter. What in the world is everyone talking about is where you need to be. So in America, you can have a hardback in different parts of the world, and that could be a little bit off on the pages, and I'll just frame that for the entire program. Because there are a variety of versions of the book floating around. We have galley copies that are accurately edited. We have the paperback in Australia and UK, and then we have the hardback in Canada, Mexico, and America. So just to frame that so we don't have any people freaking out that you're on the wrong page of the book. They probably are printed differently. And by the way, thanks for helping this become a world-class bestseller. We've hit every target across the continents and where we wanted to hit. So I appreciate you being part of this whole movement. Now, as we get into the changing conversation, I know we're on week 3, and some of you may be thinking, my gosh, we're handling like a lot of work around this conversation piece. I mean, let's get to faith and certainty and confidence and some of these other pieces, and we will get there. But what I can say is this whole conversation, and as you get into, and we get into like the chapter 5, which is changing your rules, having your pie in the sky and eating it too, and really digging in deep is going to be essential to your journey. And then one of my favorite chapters, chapter 6, the flaming tornado, stirring the pot with a burning focus. And so we do get a little further in, and I think what you're going to see in this is a little bit of themes. That might sound like Think and Grow Rich, that burning desire and burning focus, and what do you want? And so I'm going to frame session 3, week 3 here, with what do you want? Because most people are in the wrong conversation, very conflicting conversations. And some of your inquiry in the last few weeks that I've been asking you to look at is, where is that true for you? Where are there folks in your life that are still in those conflicting conversations? Where are you still tolerating those conflicting conversations? One of the reasons we don't get what we want is we ask for what we don't want. And I can tell you, it is so ingrained, in what you don't want. And so some of your journey should be every day in that what I call level 1 conscious conversation, noticing the voice in your head. So I want to go deep into that voice in your head, because the conversation and changing the conversation where we've been is a little more on the out loud and outward, processing. But really internally, how much conflict do you have? How much are you criticizing yourself, having a conversation about what you do and don't deserve, And you've got to stop it. I mean, absolutely got to stop it. You know, as we continue to move forward, I said, you know, we consider the chit in the chat. You know, when I was 17 years old, I wanted to do things differently, and for many reasons I wanted to, you know, find out how the people were making money. And I know I started the journey at that point, really needing to go into a solution-oriented, no-limit thinking, and really start only spending time with people who have that conversation, because I didn't grow up in that conversation. Remember, I grew up in a farm community in Nebraska, and no one really was having abundant conversations and personal growth and personal development kind of conversation about what do you want and what's possible. You know, most people in the time that I grew up were just, you know, lucky to have what they had. And the limitation of the conversation, really what I've seen is that many of you don't even see what's possible because you can't conceive the possibility of having it in your life. So when I say become a millionaire, I think you hear it kind of esoterically, like, oh yeah, that's pie in the sky and it's a fantasy. Like, you don't get it at a DNA level. So that level one conversation is the deep DNA level conversation. Like, your being has to shift to absolutely have what you want. Now, your being is going to shift, as we spoke about, through a doing process. So what are you doing every day that causes you to be extraordinarily uncomfortable? I mean, extraordinarily uncomfortable. And the only way you're going to create that action in your life is to put yourself in situations with people who do the things that have a result, not do the things that you want to do, because you actually don't know what to do. And I'm not saying any of that out of judgment or patronizing, but it's the truth. If you knew what to do, I can promise you'd want a new result and you would do it. But you actually, for many of you, don't even know what to do. And I can guarantee you the only way that I sped through this, and I, you know, for the most part, have moved through this process fairly quickly in my life, but it was being around. And in my situation, you know, I was in my early 20s when I was, you know, working through this work. So for many of you, it is spending time with people that are older than you, that have more maturity, wisdom, experience in making the kind of life choices that we're asking you to make. Because at a very deep cellular level, like, I know my level one conversation is extremely cleaned up. I mean, there's no negative, I can't have that, I grew up in a farm, what's my parents going to think, what's my brothers going to think, what's my significant going to think. None of that conversation. It is a full focus. I mean, you know, in a later chapter we're going to talk about burning focus. It is a full focus on what it is I want. And not from a, like, selfish place. I got to keep, you know, putting caveats and disqualifiers around this, because some of you say, well, I can't have that, but Laura can't. No, you can have anything you want. What are you willing to have? When are you willing to go get it? And who are you spending the time with? New conversations are expansive. They're abundant. I would say it makes the pie bigger. I don't think that there's a high competition in the world. I think that no one does anything exactly the same. And so when you are doing exactly what other people are doing, you don't need to be competitive with them. There's plenty of infinite space in the world. And I'd say space because that's an energy that I want to put around that. Some of you, you're hoarding everything, not just money, but you're hoarding so much in life. And a lot of it is your energy. You're hoarding your energy. And I know women, especially single moms out there, because I can relate to them, I hear you constantly saying, single parents, that if I give any more energy, that I'll just, you know, I'll fall down. You know, I'll just collapse. There's just no more energy to give. And I don't have any more energy to give. The truth is you're hoarding your energy so closely. Your conversations are negative. What that tells me energetically is that what's going on with that level one conversation is affecting everything on the outside. So when I say, like, clean it up, I'm talking about really clean it up. The rate of words I go into on chapter 4 and truly changing that deep, deep, negative, depleting piece of conversation. You know, the concept of scarcity has got to go. The negative, competitive, that whole state of mind, it's exhausting. When you think about expanding and creating and being abundant, there's enough for everybody at all times. Your languaging has to be and create that. You cannot have both of these conversations. And I have to anchor this so deeply. And again, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill's work anchors it very deeply in the fact that universal law, the law of polarity, absolutely canceled. This isn't just a thought. It isn't just an idea. It is the absolute truth that if you are in a negative level one, that conscious conversation of I don't deserve it, I don't know. I lead these 3-day to cash workshops where you're guaranteed money in 3 days, and some of these folks, even at the end where they've made money, are completely broke down in tears. Because they are so stunned from the doing that has now forced their being of a conversation that it can no longer, it's sort of the method to the madness, by the way, of how I design this workshop. They can no longer say, I can't do it. They can no longer say, being an entrepreneur is not for me. They can no longer say, I don't have any ability to create my own money. Like the doing of really a 2.5, nearly 3-day workshop changed their entire state. That's what I'm talking about. Now, you can disqualify it and say, yeah, but that was, the incubator that you put him in, and that was the process that you put him in. No, it wasn't. I didn't do the work. I didn't ask for the money. I didn't take an order. I didn't process the money. I didn't process what was being delivered. You did the work. And so when you put yourself in those kinds of states, and again, for me, I was into my early 20s. I was spending time with most of the people in their 30s and 40s who were, doing the work more out of need and crisis than out of exploration and curiosity, which is where I was in my space. So I really want you, I cannot tell you enough how critical this piece is. You don't change this, nothing else will matter. It's the piece of the sequence that is so tied to universal law that you can do all the other parts of the sequence. You can have faith, you can start building a result somewhat through confidence and certainty. You can tap into your gifts, you can use other people, but if you have a polar conversation. That was going to be funny and say bipolar conversation. But if you were going to have a polar conversation of, I don't deserve it, I'm in debt, I'm I'm fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too this, I'm too that, where it's just criticizing the hell out of yourself, versus an open, expanding conversation of what's possible. And the skill I want to keep imploring to you to take on is be curious. Instead of being judgmental, be curious. It's the opposite. And some of you have such critics and such judgment inside, you're not getting the depth of what we're talking about. And if you don't get it, nothing will move. It's universal law. You put a positive and a negative in space, any energetic space, for anything, and you will get nothing. So I don't care if you take those words and you write them down, you repeat this call, and you put posters all over your wall in your car, in every place in your life. You have got to handle the weight of your words. And this polar conversation has got to stop. It's that level of changing the conversation that will change your life. So you got to take that on. As I say on page 51, out with the old ways. I want to knock down a few other important concepts. I'm just going to point to these and let you spend some time here. But what did you learn in school? I mean, you got to kind of look through that. You've got to look at the education system. You've got to look at the teachers that taught you and why you took on some of their things. I know, you can fall in love with teachers and their belief patterns, because a lot of young minds don't have enough maturity to take on their own belief patterns. You take on other people's. I want you to look at the jobs you've had and how that influenced your conversation. Families, obviously the biggest contaminant of most. And I say that, and some of you I know can say, yeah, but it wasn't like that in my family. You're in the very, very, very small portion of the world that didn't have a very critical, I don't want to say it's negative, but just a very critical conversation. It's time to blow the lid off Wall Street, I say. I think many of you that do know me know that creating money and creating wealth and creating in your life is very different than some of the conversations that we hear on Wall Street and the political avenues. And then the I don't know, take advantage of the I don't know. So on the last page, I want you to go to that area of the book. Many people are afraid of saying something dumb. Few like to admit they don't understand. Sometimes even sophisticated people engage in deals, make trades, pursue investments, or just generally go along with things that they don't understand. So again, if we're ending chapter 4, it's this new conversation. I don't know is illegal. You do know. And again, that point of moving forward and making a choice. When you say yes, it moves you forward. And then you have a new place of choice to decide from again. So the power of saying yes and figuring out how is that you're always moving to a new place of choice. So is that guaranteeing you that your choice of saying yes is going to move you to exactly the right result? No, I can't guarantee that. It depends on a lot of other factors, and some of those factors being external. But what I can guarantee is that if you do nothing and say no, no is a stagnant place. So then when you come back to revisit a choice, you really haven't done anything because there's no movement in that space. So I don't know is illegal. I want you to start making decisions and having choices and know that there aren't rules in the way this gets done. So again, politically, culturally, the way you've always done it is interesting but not helpful. As we move into Chapter 5, we're going to talk about changing the rules. So the rules of having your pie in the sky and eating it too, it's about those rules. What is the way that you want it? And I want you to explore all those places in your life. Like, are you doing things because it's the way that you've done them? Is it the way that your family's done them? I would say, are you in the same religious, cultural, relationship rules because your family ingrained them in you? Or do you actually, personally, you have taken on and made a choice, that that's how you want your life to be? As we move into the Chapter 5 and changing the rules, it's really revealing, as I said, as we move into, page 61, is recognizing how many rules, old things, as my friend Steve Miller says, who I just think is amazing, he's an MMA world champion, is that you've changed when your DNA has deeply changed, meaning you can look back at places of your life and because of whatever influence or impact, you can see where you were and what was going on. But really, you don't recognize it anymore. It's that changed. I mean, when you have obedient transfer of a yes energy from a no energy, you will literally look back, have no toleration for no energy people. So as you move into yes energy, you're going to be able to watch and see no energy people. Some of you are hoarding and tucked in and down so much you don't even recognize how much no energy you have, which is why we've been giving you what I call these kind of baby step awareness homeworks, which are just pay attention, just be aware. What are you doing every day? Why are you doing that every day? What's caused it? And again, you've got to get this conversation fixed. If the conversation does not become very aligned towards an abundant conversation, then the law of polarity will constantly stand in your life. It's going to stand in your life regardless. But you will be negating and deleting and never changing the rules or ever changing the conversation, which you can do all the other pieces of the extreme optimistic equation, but you can tell the amount of time we're spending on this one is very, very deep. There's an internal shift that has to happen where you see literally and behave at a completely open yes energy, figure out how space. Always choosing from a new space in a new space because you're always in forward progression. You're always in forward motion. There's always a solution. You may take a few interesting turns. I don't call them wrong. I call them interesting. Where you didn't get the result, we'll shift again and create another yes from there. But at least you're moving. When you say nothing and stay completely unaware, nothing's happening. So for some of you who this is a brand new conversation, you have to know that stagnation is all around you right now. And you're not moving because you're not choosing. Okay? So when you move into the book a little more, the deserving and accountable, taking risks, deserving and accountable can only happen. Only happen when you allow someone to hold you accountable for what it is. So accountable language sounds like, this is what you want. You've asked me to hold you accountable to it. Now you can change your mind on what you want. But you can't whine anymore. The example I always use of people who go through a 3-day workshop, they've made money, they can no longer say they can't be an entrepreneur or have the ability to create cash because they have evidence of it now, which means the risk level has gone down now. They have more confidence and certainty now. They've used their gifts now and they understand team. So all of that can be negated if you, don't hold yourself accountable. And the only reason a lot of people don't hold themselves accountable is back to this internal conversation's not changed. You don't think you deserve it, and you always have excuses. So just stop it. Stop it. Alignment is extraordinarily important. You've got to get integrity in your life and an alignment in your life. There is no personal and professional life. There's a life. And the only way that's going to get cleaned up, and I want to speak to some of you who have amazing home lives, but you go and tolerate and complain, which is a light word that I would, normally use, about your professional life. So as you clean up a life, have the life you want. Why are you tolerating having a job or a professional life you absolutely hate? You're spending 40 to 60 hours in that space. It is what's generating your money. So do it in a way that serves you, serves others, and actually creates more. So how does integration happen? You, again, look at the areas of your life that are working, what you know that you're really good at, and start cleaning that up. And only spending time, I can't implore this enough, with people who have what you want, who have that higher vibration, I call it. Black, negative, stagnant energy cannot stand in the presence of positive, moving, light energy. And some of you really understand what I'm talking about. Some of you, this is a very new conversation. So another way to look at it, for those of you who haven't heard the vibrational words and the energy words and some of those things yet, is that, as we talked about in the first introduction of this book, which is the gift, it's that magnetic person. It's that person who attracts people all the time, and you look at them and say, why don't I do that? Because you haven't chosen to. It's completely available to you. All of that I'm talking about is completely available to you. I want you to look at changing the rules and all the truth about how things used to be and why they are the way they are. Because as you change your internal conversation, the external space of it has to shift to support it. So it will be very difficult for you to say, well, this is what I really want. And then from what you want, continue to have what you don't want in the space of your life. So that goes to family members, that goes to old routines and rituals and things you used to do just because it's the way that it was. Because the way that it was is a way of, I think, it's a cop-out. Because you're an individual, if you're above 18 in the world you're listening to this, you're an adult and you can make a choice, and you can also stand and say, yeah, but my family doesn't support that. That's not how our culture is. That's not how our religious views are. That's not how our political views are. That's not how our whatever is. I don't care. You are an individual, make a choice, and if you don't want to make a choice, then know that making no choice is a choice. And don't whine about it anymore, because the rest of us are really kind of tired of hearing it. And you know what I'm talking about, because many of you, you're in the same space of being tired of hearing about it. So at the end of chapter 5, I want you to start really considering the rules of your life, how they came about, how you just do what you do because it's what we've always done. Live out loud, those are like illegal words too. You don't say it too, we do it because it's like the way that it's been done. If it's not effective, change it. Like no one needs any permission to change a life or any area of your life. If it's not effective, don't do it anymore. Examine it with curiosity, not judgment, and say, what would we fix? I want you just to notice even in my languaging pattern, right, how much more space and energy there is because we're curious and exploring, not hoarding and judging and restriction and negative. Let's move to one of my favorite chapters, just because I love the name. It's called The Flaming Tornado. Stirring the pot with a burning focus. So again, how do you do this? You got to get a burning focus. So burning focus, and I know a lot of people always ask me, why do I do what I do? And how do I continue to do what I do with all the energy that I have? And I tell them it's because I have a burning focus, a desire that is bigger than me. Now, did it just turn on one day? No. It was a very clear, conscious moving towards what I wanted, moving towards getting my life handled. And then at some point, when money isn't just the issue, it's just about you having a certain kind of life that you want. It's about a bigger opportunity, a bigger offering to the world because you can. And I can tell you, there is dueling desires, I call them. And dueling desires is when you want one thing, but you have something else, or you want two things and don't know how to stand. So when you are in that dueling conversation, you go back to chapter 5 and you start sorting out what rules need to change so you can have it cleaned up and aligned and easy. One of our themes for the last few years that we've really taken on is with the S Energy book is ease and grace. In fact, that whole ease and grace and curious simplicity is a huge value of mine. So some of you are committed to struggle. And if you didn't have the struggle, I just want you to notice my words, if you didn't have the struggle, you have to know, you have to say that you're worthy of it. And for many of you, especially women, you have to say that you're deserving of it. So standing in I know from a confident place for many of you is a scary, responsible place to stand. And it's easier to have a cop-out pattern of a dueling conversation and just say, well, I don't know. And it's the way that it's been and all those other conversations we've just had. So if you hear this week's call and say, well, Lori, you've been talking about this for 3 weeks, the difference between this call and then where we're moving to as we move into the faith, confidence, certainty, gifts, dreams, is this one is very deeply internal. There's a depth of internal vibration. DNA, as some of my friends would say, there's depth that you have got to shift, or you're going to continue to sabotage everything that we talk about. Who can't handle the truth? I love this conversation. In the book, I talk about going on TV and creating some results for some families that I was asked to, review their financial lives. And, CNBC has a lot of those kind of shows. And I think many of you know I was on the Dr. Phil show. And I've done this for other shows where I go and, check out their life and what they've been doing. And I've been asked to fix their life entrepreneurially, financially, and give them a makeover. I love doing makeovers, by the way. Well, there was one case where I created such a result with the family, and I didn't do the result for them, they did the result themselves. But such an extraordinary result occurred that when I came back and we were going to all go back on air, the producer said, America can't handle the truth. There's no way you could have created $15,000 a month in new income for this family in less than 90 days. So we're just going to say that it's sick. So why do I share that story? Welcome to the world that isn't necessarily going to support you. So why do I bring this up? As I name this chapter, The Flaming Tornado, a flaming tornado doesn't stop. A flaming tornado moves forward with its energy. It touches down in all spaces of life. And when things like that happen, you don't fall down because the producer said, I'm only going to give you 6,000, even though it's 15, because America can't handle the truth. They couldn't handle the fact that you could make that much money with the family, or they could do it in less than 90 days. So there's a lot of lessons in there. Many of you are going to do things, cause an enormous result, and it's going to be disqualified. Not because it's disqualified from you or the truth, the world disqualifies it. So it is up to you to decide if you're going to tolerate or not to make it all wrong, not to fall down. And I want to speak to not falling down in, mapping the gap and where you got to go and what you got to get done. Because many of you cannot disqualify this new result you're going to be getting in your life because it's not supported by a large majority. Again, only 10% of the highly successful people do things very differently than the sheepology and the norm. So just because it feels like you're out there alone, you're doing the right thing with the results coming. The other thing that I want you to pay attention to is you don't put out a flaming tornado very easily. So one of the things I think Bob Proctor probably taught me the most, who also highly edified this book, is the fact that when things happen, whatever those things are, because you're going to have things happen, like I had with the producer, you're going to have things happen where people, I was consistently told, you don't want to set up an office in Australia. The risk, the liability, blah, 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 blah. Just, come and go like all the other American speakers. Don't set up an office because I stand as the only percent. No one's done it before. So you will stand solo in places in your forward movement that will not be necessarily supported, endorsed. As Bob would say, you don't want to get hit deep or for very long, and you don't want to get down. That doesn't mean that you have intense heat moving forward. So someone recently said that about me. In fact, Martha said that. She said, I've seen Laurel mad with a lot of heat and very focused and have that burning desire, but I haven't seen her down long. So although I've been hit, and I would say it's been hit, but, had all sorts of obstacles just like you have, the difference is I don't stay down long, I don't make it cut deep, and I move forward very quickly, and I keep that, burning, flaming desire going ahead and stay focused on the bigger goal as much as you can. Now, again, who's going to support you when you're standing out in front in the top 10%, the top 20% of the players in your life? You've got to keep surrounding yourself with forward-moving people who understand what this is about. It's why the Live Out Loud community is so powerful. It's why our mentoring, big table community is so powerful. because we're supported in a conversation that very few of us are really having in the world. So I'm asking you to walk through a place called Say Yes, Figure Out a How. Keep it moving. You're going to have all sorts of interesting obstacles and challenges, and I want you to take them on with curiosity and take them on with people who live in that space all the time. Like, we know that space exists. And again, we're not getting down. We're not going to let it cut deep. We're going to creatively solve new problems as they come up. And you're only going to get new problems if you say yes, figure out how, because you're choosing from a new space, not the stagnant space of, no, I'm not going to do anything until I have it all figured out. When you say, no, I've got to figure it all out, and I've got to sort it out, and I've got to get ready, nothing occurs. So the last chapter of the inquiry is, when was there a time in your life, right, where you really looked at an action? Like, start thinking, and backtrack it to the initial thoughts, the initial conversations you were having internally. And if you would have had a different conversation, start tying it together and noticing the result is a direct reflection of the action you took, and then back it up further, and it's the conversation you had, and it's the thoughts in your head. It all ties together, and it happens in absolute simultaneous action to the world. So your job in this next week, as we walk out of session 3 and chapter 3, is to do one last deep look, internally, externally, to the result. Notice that just, the I don't know patterns, and let's lay that all down. It's not like it's going to just change overnight, but as you journal about it, you write about it, and you get this body of conversation that you need to change, you have an awareness now, and we set it off to the side, and then we keep moving through the formula. As we move into the next part of the book, as we move into, let me see, where we're going next, as we move into the faith, confidence, certainty of dreams, is your dreams are going to be limited as we move ahead. Confidence and certainty will be limited as we move ahead. If this conversation doesn't get shifted, changing rules. I really want you to look at the rules in your life, how things have always been done. I don't care. Is it a courageous thing I'm asking you to go change them? Absolutely. But what else are you going to do? Complain about it your whole life, or get moving? Let's get moving. Let's say yes, and let's go. And so as you move into this next week, what are those big dreams? We talked about it week 1. We're going to write them down, dust off your dream, have a driving focus of desire. We're going into levels of honoring gifts, not only yours, but those that are on the planet that most people have never even identified as gifts. And then how do you access those assets, right? How do you access those assets so you have more of what you want with ease and grace, and not this struggle and hard place of knowing? So we're going to support this again with some homework out on the findyouryesenergy.com site. We're going to ask you for more comments and insights. If you really want, this is usually about the time between week 3 and 4, that you might want to go back to your Yes Energy coach, or call Live Out Loud. Go to liveoutloud.com and call our office and take on a one-on-one Yes Energy coach to help you process and hold you accountable through the changes that we're asking you to make. Those of you that do that are very serious about this, and I can promise you get serious about this, and you take the same intensity and seriousness to now the 3-day to cash conversation of let's build a cash machine in a business. You're going to take on a sales conversation and a marketing conversation that you've been avoiding with this yes attitude. Oh my gosh, the results are going to be extraordinary. You take this yes energy on with changes that you want in your health, and your results are going to be extraordinary. So I have an enormous challenge for you, which is read the book and call Live Out Loud, call your coach back that got you here, and really take this on with a lot of rigorous activity and commitment. When yes energy happens in your life, you're going to take on the marketing and sales plans we talked about building your business and making money every day with a whole different attitude. You're going to take on becoming a millionaire very seriously and get it done in 1 to 3 years, maybe 3 to 5. You're going to take your health on in a different way. Your whole life will start changing when you take this on. We believe in you until you believe in you. And many of you don't believe in you to the degree that we do. And when you do, you'll start noticing how easy and graceful things change around you. And you'll stop struggling and committing to that stuck place. So take this week on very, very seriously, very intensely. Be rigorous with yourself. And we'll speak next week, week 4. Have a good week.